If Hollywood was more like a sport and less like a cesspool of incestuous nature, Rachel Zegler would be riding the pine with this result at the box office. Strike number 1, West Side Story. Strike number 2, Shazam number 2. And finally, strike 3, you're out, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, only bringing in $44 million in projections. We don't have the actuals quite yet, but when we do, I'll make sure to do an update because the Marvel's companion piece won't be far behind. But guys, we took a look at some of the projections here in the lead up to finally seeing the numbers, and it took them an awful long time to come forward with the projections for Friday. And well, color me a little bit skeptical in regards to what we know right now, but even still, what we do know is that it still failed to hit projections. Like, even the low end of projections. Guys, this is really bad. For Rachel Zegler, I guess, but for everybody else, we can just sit back and laugh and be like, bitch is toxic. The Hunger Games and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes fought its way to the top. Yes, it was the tallest midget on the weekend, which is so sad because it beat the trolls. It had the hair. It must not have counted hair. That's the only thing. $44 million in this opening weekend after being shown in 3,776 theaters with rising star Rachel Zegler in the leading role. Unless you've heard the plot, then you realize that her character isn't anywhere near as important as the evil, irredeemable Snow character getting an origin story. That makes no sense at all whatsoever. But again, it's Hollywood's weird obsession to try to reframe irredeemable villains and fill in their backstory. Nobody asked for the origin story for Cruella de Vil. You know, cruel devil, she skins puppies, but guys, her mom was pushed off a cliff by rabid Dalmatians. That's unfortunately not a lie. But anyways, the new Hunger Games prequel just missed pre-release projections of around $50 million. Oh, just barely missed it at $44 million. But I also remember reading $45 to $55 million, so it even under those revised projections, still underperformed. Congratulations, Rachel. That's the one thing that you can rely on her to do, is underperform and be miserable while doing it. In its first few days in theaters, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes has now grossed around $99 million worldwide, just shy of breaking $100 million. Yeah, we know that's the way that shit works, and we got Box Office Mojo right here once again pulled up for the domestic, and yeah, don't know about the international or anything like that, but yeah, taking a look at the weekend, and well, because I haven't really seen a lot of coverage on this outside of people going, it's not very good. Even amongst the low standards set by the previous Hunger Games films, it's just not great. But as you can see, a big opening day at $19.1 million, and then it just precipitously drops off from there, like by quite a bit, which is not a good sign. Like, nobody's really talking about this film. And at this point in time with Rachel Zegler, unless she just performs a stormer, nothing's going to be good news for one of her projects if given enough time. But okay, well, I also understand that the budget for this film is about in on and around $100 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. So the fact that it made even less in projections and then also tracked behind the Marvels in Thursday previews shows that it's probably on a fairly similar trajectory. That's not terrible, but when it's all said and done, when we can run a few more numbers, it's probably still going to end up costing Lionsgate some money if we keep it a buck. Because remember, before, okay, they were allowed to go out there and perform and give a few interviews, promote the film, okay? Because they got special exception from the Actors Guild to go out there and perform because Lionsgate was a non-striking studio or something like that. So Lionsgate's marketing budget, while still kind of sort of affected by the number of interviews that Rachel Zegler and the other guys that are unfortunate enough to be, plagued with her on their resume going forward, weren't shuttled around by Lionsgate in order to do all the promotional tour that they could, but they still had an opportunity to do as much. So there's still going to be an unknown marketing budget that's going to be on here bogging everything down. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is eyeing a good opening weekend. Not really. It missed projections. It's at 64 years, before Katniss Everdeen, who's never coming back apparently until Jennifer Lawrence's or her whole novelty about getting naked and doing some weird shit just no longer pans out, and then she comes back and does, I don't know, some goofy ass sequel where she's gonna be the moms or something like that. I don't fucking know. I didn't follow any of this shit. They just always look like dog water, busted ass bitch movies. Like, I wasn't really all that concerned about it. And then I was saying, oh, that unlikable, Snow White chick's gonna be in this? All right, bet this is gonna be funny. And then also finding out that the Hunger Games fans are some of the most insufferable cucks on the planet. Oh, it just warms my heart to cover this fucking flop in the making. The prequel's critical reception will affect its overall box office gross is unclear. Yeah, because reviews have been mixed, and it's also following a very similar trajectory, at least on Rotten Tomatoes, and we know how reliable those are. Remember that story? There's a video that's on my channel, and many other people covered it as well. But Rotten Tomatoes buying for as little as $50 to get positive reviews for different movies that are out there. It's just so strange that both the Hunger Games prequel and the Marvels sit right at the lower echelons of 60%, just barely high enough on Rotten Tomatoes to go ahead and get that very much lauded and appreciated certified fresh verification. Very, very strange when it comes to that. But there are a large contingent of critics who have written mostly positive, it's mixed, but they've written mostly positive things about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And the last time that I looked at the reviews, and fuck, we might as well just pull them up at this point in time. Oh wow, yeah, very interesting as well. Do they even have the Marvels on the side still? Doesn't look like it. Oh, but then Napoleon film's alright, and plus Ridley Scott's pissing off the French, so it can't be all that bad. But okay, yeah, 62%. Let's see what top critics have to say about this. Oh, 55%. Oh, but there's a large majority of critics who say that it's good. Fantastic stuff. But what about all audience? Oh, okay, 84. Oh man, it looks like maybe the people that decided to, voice their opinion on Rotten Tomatoes think that this isn't a steaming pile of shit. You just don't pay attention to, the movie-going audience that's just not turning out for this stuff. But okay, it's unclear how the prequel's box office will compare to its predecessors, but it's looking to make a good amount regardless. No, it's fucking not. Men lie, women lie. But numbers don't, and it's just not tracking like that, guys. The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes reportedly had a budget of around $100 million, according to Deadline. The prequel's budget may seem high, but considering the lower production cost of the last three movies, because they weren't making money, okay? It was a precipitous drop-off after the first one. Like, it's been a dying movie franchise forever, so to decide to reboot it with one of the most unlikable bitches to ever come along again, yeah, that was a smart idea, right? Far less than Catching Fire, whose budget ran between $130-140 million, way back in the cut, the original film being made for $78 million, and that was back in what, 2010? 2009, 2010, but yeah, Mockingjay Part 1 and then Part 2 the production budget, or oopsie daisy, I got all, confuddled here, but Catching Fire, so the second one was between 130 and 140. How do you not have actuals on something that's like, pushing 2 decades old? And then Mockingjay Part 1 was for 125 to 140. Mockingjay Part 2 was $160 million. All of those just continued to drop off when it came to profitability, and then also audience reception, where everybody's like, yeah, the first one was all right, and then the next ones, wow, they sucked ass. So yes, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes needs to make at least $200 million to succeed at the box office. But what's the marketing budget? Okay, and then just jumping back to the Daily Mail stuff. Well, the opening numbers are a sign that Zegler can be at the top of a marquee for a major blockbuster. You're out of your fucking mind if you're already projecting that, because there's no truth to those numbers. It still has a long way to go when it's compared to Jennifer Lawrence-led Original that grossed $152 million in its opening weekend in March of 2012. And we know well beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Hunger Games brand, the IP, like, it fell off precipitously, man. Like, every subsequent film from the original that made and turned a little bit of a profit, by the end everybody was done with it. Like, there is nothing propelling this franchise forward. What it made in its initial opening weekend, it failed projections, man. I cannot drive that point home hard enough. It doesn't have the longevity. It doesn't have the promise of another film. film because, Christ almighty, they had to go to Suzanne Collins, the bitch who wrote the fucking franchise. The Lionsgate had to twist her arm. She had no plans of ever writing a prequel story. They just came to her hat in hand asking, please, can we please milk this franchise? We know that you sell a lot of books. We know that there is a dedicated fan base that is out there. We know that we already poisoned the fan base away from our films. Will you please, for the love of God, please just tell us how much money you will need in order to craft another book, okay? And even still, listening to the people who have actually read the books beforehand already said that this isn't even close to any of her previous output. It's bad. It's not good. You are taking a source material, a cobbled together story that doesn't need to be told. It doesn't have, for whatever it's worth, it doesn't have the additional goodwill that could potentially be resuscitated from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hunger Games is not cut from the same cloth that can end up helping out the likes of the Marvel's brand has behind it, Disney and the MCU, for whatever that's worth. Okay? The goofy-ass Hunger Games franchise, I don't know if it has that pull, but don't worry, guys. Next week, it could be very tough because there's a staunch competition with Disney's final biggest outing coming out, and yeah, guess what? It's not looking out all that well. So yeah, it looks like we're gonna cap off our trifecta of girl power with bomb after bomb after bomb. Sucks to suck, I guess. But with all of that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.